Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome back to our show. I'm your host, John Harcar, and we're here today with Ryan Chaw. And what we're going to talk about is doubling your rental income using niche student housing or doing some rent by the room stuff. All right. Guys, remember, here at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, all real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their business. And we do that by providing tools and resources to build the business they want to build, which in turn helps them live the life they've dreamed of. So, Ryan, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me on, John.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in getting into this whole part about renting by the room. I know, pad split and other type of things are out there. Great way to grow more income. But before we get into the weeds of everything, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you, kind of where you came from, how you got into this game of real estate, and what got you here?
Yeah, so what inspired me was actually my grandpa. He bought a couple properties back in the 1950s, and they were dirt cheap, and it was in the SF, San Francisco Bay Area. So as we all know, appreciation went up like crazy, rents went up, and he was not only able to retire early, but help cover part of my college tuition and that of my brothers as well. So I realized that real estate's one of the best ways to create generational wealth from that example. And so I just got started as soon as I could. I graduated as a pharmacist in 2015, and I just saved up as much capital as I could. I would work a lot of overtime shifts, 14 to 16-hour shifts from 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. I would work retail pharmacy and hospital pharmacy, so I had 2 jobs at the time. And I just tried to amass as much capital as possible because real estate is very capital intensive.
Yes.
So I bought my first property for $262,000 back in 2016, and it was in Stockton, California. And what I did was I did what my buddy did in college, where he lived in a room and he rented out all the other rooms to his buddies, and he was able to live for free and make cash flow as well. So I was like, wow, this is a really cool strategy. I also recently graduated from the pharmacy school. So I was like, why don't I just rent out to other pharmacy students? And that's how I got started. I took a single family home, basically divided it into 5 or 6 bedrooms. And then I just rented out by the room for $600 or $700 per room, which means that 6-bedroom usually makes $3,600 to $4,200 per month.
Now, your grandfather bought some properties. Was he like an investor, or did he just buy properties on the side, just kind of wanting to dabble in real estate or something like that?
He was an investor, but he had a military salary. He was a draftsman in the military, and him and his wife at the time, who passed away early, unfortunately, they had actually a lot of racism. They had racism against them. They were trying to buy all these properties, and everyone was like slamming the doors on their face. Eventually, they met a nice Italian family that was able to sell this set of 6 flats to them. And so they basically rented out the other 5 flats, stayed in one of them, and that was the rest is history. Actually, I think my mother.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Our uncle stayed in one of the other ones, but yeah, the rest of them were rented out.
Okay. So you have, this figure in your life that's, obviously doing things good in real estate and being successful. Why did you not go into real estate? Why not, or why pharmaceutical?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Back in high school, I always wanted to have a career helping people, and I was really good at chemistry, science, biology, and so pharmacy just kind of seemed right up my alley. And real estate, obviously, having Asian parents, my parents are like, no, don't do that. Do what's safe, be a doctor, doctor, pharmacist, lawyer, engineer, right? Those were pretty much my main options. So they had a very strong influence with that. Back then, obviously, as a high schooler, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was like, sure, why not, right?
Sure.
So I got into this accelerated pharmacy program that was a 5-year program, 2 years of undergrad and 3 years of graduate. So I was like, yeah, I'll be out pretty quickly, so I might as well do that. And also, it actually, if I were to go back, I would do the same thing because pharmacy, it's a pretty good income, and for real estate, you need to have a pretty good income to purchase properties. You want to have a very stable, high income job, and you need to have enough capital to buy those properties. Now, of course, you can do things like house hacking where you live at the house, so you only put like a 3 or 3.5% down payment, but typically those loan terms aren't as great. You have PMI that you have to pay. Right. There's just a lot of money that you have to put into the property too. So that's why it's really good to have a strong, stable income before you get into real estate investing, in my opinion.
Got it. Okay, so you went to school, you graduated with your pharmacy degree. How long did it take you before you bought your first property?
About a year. I saved up $100,000. Back in high school, I was like tutoring, and so I just saved up, put all that money into stocks, and then I just worked my butt off basically for the first like 2 or 3 years, and I bought property with whatever funds I had available. Mm-hmm. I think the second one I only could put a 10% down payment on it because I didn't have enough funds.
This first one, was it a property that you lived in?
The first one was an investment.
It a pure rental investment property?
The first one was an investment. The second one was essentially a second home.
Okay. And then how did you go out and find these properties?
Yeah, so I went on to Zillow. Actually, you know what? I first contacted an agent, and he showed me kind of around the properties. He actually mentored me a little bit. He would go to the house and say, this house, avoid this because if you take a look at the roof, it's in really bad shape, and the seller's not going to be willing to fix it. Then yeah, I would definitely walk away from that deal. So he kind of showed me the ropes a little bit, and that's pretty much how I got started, is just having that phone call with the realtor, and he said, yeah, why don't you come down to Stockton and start looking at houses?
Okay. All right. And at what point, did you decide to go full-time into real estate?
I would say around the year 4, year 5. So by the 4th year of working as a pharmacist, I was making $10,755 per month in passive, like just rental income. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this strategy really works very well. By renting by the room, I'm doubling the typical rental income. And I was like, if I just do this for another 3 years, I basically have my pharmacist income fully replaced. And so I could retire. So I think around the age of 28 or so, I was like, I calculated it out. And it turned out by the age of 31, I could replace the pharmacist salary and retire. So by 31, I was like, I set my quit date. It was August of 2023. And I quit on that date.
Okay. What are some of the challenges that you ran into when you started to get, obviously more involved in real estate, buying these properties? I mean, what are some of the things that you came up against in this specific model?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Sure. Yeah. So one thing that happens, not everyone thinks about, is because there's like a human element to it. There's potential for tenant versus tenant conflicts or housemate conflicts. So it could be like over the dishes being dirty, for example. It could be over loud noise at night. Maybe somebody's staying up late playing video games and shouting at their, in their mic or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
You've probably heard of that happen before. People like rage.
Mhm.
So what happens for that is I typically have the student that's complaining have a one-on-one conversation with the person they're complaining about, state why they're upset, come up with some sort of action plan that they can kind of implement for the next 2 weeks. It could be just like quiet hours after 10 or whatever, or use your headphones. But basically, come up with an action plan directly with them. And then if it's still a problem, come back to me after those 2 weeks. After those 2 weeks, I like 95, 99% of cases, I don't hear anything. It's either they learn how to tolerate each other or they actually work something out. But in either case, most times, it goes away. If it doesn't, then I will actually call up the person who is causing the issue. I'll state like, oh, the other tenants are telling me this. What can you do? Like, what are your thoughts and what do you think you can do about this, right?
Mhm.
And if that doesn't work, you can always go to potentially the parents, because a lot of these students, because I invest in college towns, specifically bring in like grad students a lot of times, they do have parents as well. So I
Right.
can potentially go to the parent and say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you help out with this, with the
Okay.
policing of this?
So what it sounds like is that as compared to a traditional rental, right, where I just have a family in there, you got to have some conflict resolution skills to be able to mitigate these things.
Yeah, as long as you have like a system or strategy. Nowadays, I have a virtual assistant who kind of handles all this type of stuff, and I
Mhm.
have the SOP I just basically gave you.
Sure. Is there any specific um, vetting process or something that you go maybe above and beyond what traditional, kind of vetting would be for a tenant?
So the most important thing to get high quality tenants is to be near a college or like a hospital, so that you can get like a top college, I would say, so that you can get like really good tenants who, let's say they had like maybe straight A's in high school, they're very well rounded, they've done a lot of extracurriculars, all of that type of stuff. They tend to be a lot more responsible, especially the
Mm.
graduate students. So I typically invest in schools that have a lot of grad programs and don't provide housing for grad students. In fact, most colleges do not provide any housing for graduate students. They might have like maybe one building, but they provide enough for undergrad, but the grad students are basically left to find housing for themselves. So they're out of necessity, grad students have to live off campus. So that's kind of my main clientele is I go to these schools that have like pharmacy, dentistry, doctorate programs,
Right.
MBA and law programs. And so by doing that, I really bring in that high quality tenant base for the most part. And typically, I try to match people up as well. I might have like a pharmacy house, a dental house, a law house, etc.
Okay. Right. So
Hmm.
they all have mutual type of interests, right? And are kind of around the same kind of peer class, right?
Yeah, and as
Um,
far as like payment, you never like get unpaid rent because it's usually the parents who are paying, right? No parent is going to just stop paying for their child and have their child get evicted from where they're staying at school,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's a big thing about this as well, is it's very consistent with the income that comes in. And I only do 1 year leases. They're allowed to sublet during the summer to, summer school students, but they do have, it is basically August to August leases for everyone.
Got it. What's the kind of craziest situation you've had arise at one of your? I've heard some crazy stuff at some like pad
Sure.
splits. So what's kind of like the craziest situation you've ever encountered or had to deal with?
I mean, there's a couple things. Like one, I've had a sewage line break where I get a call at 11 p.m. saying that there's
Mm.
sewage that's all over the kitchen floor. backing out in the shower, etc.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
And I had to get a sanitation crew out there, and I found that the line was broken as well. So I had to replace the whole sewage line, which cost like $9,000. And so I realized from there, like, I really have to do the due diligence during my inspection phase. And I could have done a sewage lateral line inspection and found that break while the seller was still, selling me the property, so that I can negotiate with them credit towards paying for that sewage line repair.
Right.
Now there is that, but there's also a student who it was like my very first year. He was smoking like marijuana when it was illegal in California. And
Right.
so that became a big issue. A lot of the housemates were like upset about it, obviously. And then he also was a little bit of a party type. He was actually a part of my fraternity, which is funny. I went on a trip with him, and I knew he was a very loud person, very party type mentality. But I kind of ignored it, and I was like, you know what? I need to just fill this as soon as possible. So I took him on, and I was like, yeah, he's my buddy. It should be fine. Little did I know, he brought over like 80 people for a wild Halloween party, and I got the cops called on me, on us, and the cop was like saying, hey, your occupancy, you can't have 80 people at the house like this, fire codes, blah blah blah, right? And so, yeah, I got in trouble because I brought in a tenant that I didn't fully, well, I actually vetted him. I knew his personality, but I still brought him in because I was desperate to get my first tenants in to try to avoid vacancies.
So would you say don't rent to friends? Certain
I think,
people.
you just have to, you kind of can tell based off of how they interact with you and respond to you, kind of what type of person they are. Also, though, if you do bring in a couple good ones, like maybe 2 or 3, like really serious students who are trying to get their MD, for example, they kind of keep the other tenants in check. If one tenant's like, oh, I want to have a house party, the others are like, no, I got midterms and finals. Sorry.
So I was going to ask, is there a reason why you focus on like grad students and those to kind of, mitigate that party possibility? I mean, we all like to party. I was in college. I like to party. I knew grads that like to party, but is that kind of where you're targeting that? People that are more focused?
Sure. Yeah. I really advertise my places as quiet study environment type houses. And so people who contact me, they're kind of looking for that, and they want to keep the place like that too. So that's
Sure.
kind of how I do that. But the other thing I do is I keep a very good security deposit. I keep 1 month rent for the security deposit from each tenant. So it ends
Mhm.
up being like $3,600, $4,200. And so if something does happen, I do have a lot of, deposit to use to cover it potentially.
Got it. Got it. And just for anybody else that might be listening, that might be looking to do some like rent by the rooms, is there any specific things that you put in like a lease for each person? Because you have 4 different people, maybe 4 different personalities. Like you said, one person wants to party, the rest are like, no. So is there
Right.
like a certain, they have to have a majority or something like that to where, it kind of dictates how things happen?
Yeah, I do put in the lease that they do have to take care of the common spaces together. Things like leaving dirty dishes in the sink, for example, that's a violation of the lease. And what we do a lot of times, if there is dishes left in the sink, is we will have our boots on the ground person go in there, take pictures of it, and then we'll
Hmm.
email them those pictures and say, hey guys, if this continues, we basically have to hire a cleaner to do this job. And then you would basically be passed on the cleaning bill would be passed on to you guys. So
Hmm.
I mean, it'll be split equally among everyone. So it's everyone's responsibility to take care of that situation. So if
Sure.
even if you maybe you did some of the dirty dishes, but not all of them. You might want to just, help clean up after all of them so that you guys don't get charged for that. The other thing is, obviously, I do have like a dishwasher so that they can use that to, just get the dishes out of the sink. So that's probably the biggest concern. But other things in the lease, I mean, I do charge like a $90 cleaning fee at the very end of the lease. Sometimes people are on group leases if they're all like friends, for example, and they know each other. I might have them on a group lease. But yeah, other than that, usually they're just individual leases, and there's little intricacies like that, the details that I mentioned, that will differ than a standard full family lease.
Sure. And I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, no, that's it. I know, like, and I've seen in the news, stuff with pad split and, counties or cities trying to push regulations and stuff. I mean, have you run across any situations to where, a specific area maybe didn't want the, rent by the room area because there's so many people that, 5 cars in place?
Yeah.
Any
That's something
situations
pad
like
split
that
is
that might have
fighting a
came up?
lot for sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something that's like high on the agenda for pad split, and they have a lot of
Yeah.
lawyers behind that. So there are some cities that have regulations around occupancy. So, they might say you can only have 5 unrelated tenants at a house or something like this. However, there are usually ways, like there's things in the law that say you can do it if you get a specific permit, for example. So for me,
Right.
I got like a change of use permit to be a rooming house or a boarding house. So like rooming houses and boarding houses, you just have to get that special designation. For me,
Okay.
it required having a smoke detector in every room, which is pretty standard anyways.
Yeah.
A carbon monoxide detector on every floor, and then it required an exit sign as well. So the little exit sign that lights up and shows you, where the back door is or whatever. That's what I had to put in, and then it took like maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get approved, and that was it.
Okay.
And then I was approved as a rooming house. Now that doesn't have to be. It depends on like what zoning district you're in. It depends on what city you're in. I would say like a majority of cities in California don't even have that regulations like that. So it just, again, it depends on the city.
Are you strictly up in Northern California? Where do you have your properties? Like around what
So
what,
I
what
have,
colleges?
yeah, I have Sacramento, Stockton, California, Cleveland, Ohio, Huntsville, Alabama. I have 14 student rentals at this time.
Wow. What made you decide to branch out into those other areas outside of where you're at?
Yeah, I started in California because that's where I'm from. So Stockton was only an hour and 15-minute drive from me. So I was very comfortable that I could go down there, see the property, make any, changes, whatever,
Hmm.
do my marketing locally if I really wanted to. But then I realized that most of the stuff can be done online, especially if you have a team. And so
Yeah.
the key is having that team, having a good boots on the ground, a contractor handyman. I also make a list of really trustworthy plumbers, electricians, HVAC people, roofers, and just having one of each, skill set essentially allows me to, like, if there's I don't know, a pipe that leaks, call up the plumber and just have them come out and fix the issue. Nowadays, I also have a virtual assistant who calls the plumber for me when there's an issue. So just having those good people on hand to call is really important. And a lot of people wait until the emergency happens. You shouldn't wait till it happens. You get,
No.
you start building your team now so that if it does happen, that's when you can go ahead and just look down your list and call them up.
These properties in you said Alabama and Ohio.
Mhm.
Are you using a property manager or no? Just kind of
So
keep
I don't use. Okay, so there's 2 parts of property management, right? There's marketing and there's
right,
management, like actually
right.
maintaining the property. So
Hmm.
marketing, I do in-house marketing. So my virtual assistant kind of does all the marketing. All the stuff is online. A lot of it is automated. I have like programs kind of behind the scenes that just respond to people.
Hmm.
And then for the management piece, I do have somebody who's boots on the ground who will
Okay.
go through the houses with a checklist and say, oh yeah, there's no mold, there's no dry rot, blah 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 blah. And they'll do that once a quarter, and I pay them on a per cases basis. So for them
Okay.
to go through the house on a quarterly basis, I, pay them maybe somewhere between 65 and $75 or something like this, right?
Okay.
And they also kind of go in there to maybe do some house tours for a group of students who are interested. Now, normally I have my students actually do the tours, and I'll pay them like $25 for each tour that they do. But if,
Hmm.
they're not available, I'll have the property manager do that part. And again, I pay them on a per case basis. I don't pay them at 8 to 12% of the total
Per
rental
month.
income because
Yeah.
they're not doing any of the marketing for me. They're kind of there to help with the move in, move outs, help with the house checklists, help with coordinating any tours or deliveries and setting up appliances, that type of stuff.
Okay. What are some of the pros and cons versus traditional renting?
Sure. Pros, a lot more cash flow. In fact, in today's market, everyone, I feel like it's a up and coming thing, student housing, that is. Student
Hmm.
housing slash co-living. Because right now, with multifamily getting hit really, really hard, with single family home investing not really making any cash flow, this is kind of like the thing you have to do. You have to be creative in order
Yeah.
to make cash flow, right? And Airbnb, right, used to be a great method to invest, but now because there's so much competition in it, it's just it's really hard to get in, especially if you're a new Airbnb owner. So that's why like student housing is so great. It has double the cash flow. It's the parents paying the rent, so you always have that consistency versus people coming in and out all the time like Airbnb.
Yeah.
And it's like a very undervalued niche. There's like over 100 colleges in every single state. And there's pharmacy colleges, medical colleges, law colleges, etc. And so this can be done in anywhere essentially,
Yeah. Yeah.
and at least double the cash flow. I mean, double the rental income, and sometimes even triple the rental income.
Um, are you seeing like so you mentioned you're seeing more of a trend, people starting to do this more. When you go out and buy your properties, are you buying turnkey? Are you buying stuff that needs a little bit of love? I mean, what type of level are you buying at?
Turnkey, pretty much.
Turnkey.
Yeah, I don't do things like burrs or anything like that. It's the thing is, if I'm going to spend like 3 months renovating the property, and I basically look at the opportunity cost of that, well, if I bought a property now and rented it out right away, and I rented it out for $4,200 a month, well, 3 months times $4,200 is like $12,000, right? So
Mm,
unless I'm gonna make a $50,000 return or $40,000 return, and that's like a guaranteed return, I don't even want to take that risk. I just
yeah, makes sense.
cut all that out. Just do a simple strategy: buy a house that's already in good shape. Put in those extra bedrooms, which cost maybe $1,500 to $2,500 per room, and then just rent it out as soon as I can, which is pretty much right away.
Right. Are you buying on or off market?
It depends. I do have an agent who kind of sends me off-market deals, so sometimes I will buy an off-market deal, but most of the time it's just a property that pops up on Zillow and, it has 1 day on market, and I'll go ahead and put an offer on it because I'm pretty quick with that. It's almost like being like in real estate, it's almost like being like a cheetah. You have to
Hmm.
wait, and then when the prey comes, you pounce on it, right? So you really want to pounce on the deal before like others get to it. Otherwise, you get into a bidding war, and then it just keeps going up and up and up, and doesn't make
Yeah.
sense anymore. So I check Zillow every day, and I will. Usually, I would say most of the properties, majority of my properties, I bought within a day or two of it hitting the market.
Awesome. Are you using hard money, private money, traditional bank financing? What are you doing?
My own money.
Your own money.
So yeah, I recently I took on I guess a few like two family members essentially, but all the rentals like since I started was pretty much my own money. I would say like the first 5 years, the first like five in California were all my own money, and then what I did was I leveraged the first house that I had. I sold that one and used it to buy seven in Ohio. Well, now it's
Hmm.
eight. But basically, it was still my own money. I took
Right.
that and used that to buy out of the state.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
What mistakes do you see people that are getting into something like this make?
Mm, I would say, oh, I mean, there's a ton of mistakes that people can make. I think the most important thing is having a very good, stable job, having good income, so that in case something happens on the house, you can, make those repairs without it really stressing your budget out. The second mistake I would say is just not knowing how to market well. You got to have good systems to find those tenants and really do targeted marketing for college students. And then I would say, maybe not having very firm house rules in place. So one thing that we do is the VA will help with their move-in. They will go through the house rules. They'll have them sign off on it. They'll go one at a time. Don't leave dirty dishes in the sink, blah, 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 blah. And that really minimizes the conflicts.
Okay. And if someone wants to get into renting by the room and doing what you're doing, what advice would you give to them? How do they get started?
Yeah, get started as soon as you can. It's one of the best ways. Like, even if you have 3 people live there, you're essentially covering your mortgage payment at least, just having 3 people. And then the other 3 are just gravy, right? If you get to a 6-bedroom house. Other advice I would say is you really have to know where to buy. So a lot of times I'll go to Reddit and I'll read through the student forums specifically for that school. And it'll say like, oh yeah, grad students like living here or there, right? And typical, searches I do is like off-campus housing nearby, Sacramento State. And then I'll look through like, okay, what are people recommending for best places to stay off-campus housing near Sacramento State? And then I'll try to buy houses in those neighborhoods that the students are mentioning.
That's awesome, man. I love the idea. I love the business plan and how you're making, this extra income. It's incredible. If folks want to get in touch with you, right? If they, want to learn more about this, maybe have some questions on some of the stuff you mentioned, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Sure, yeah. Feel free to ask any questions you guys have. Just go to www.newbierealestateinvesting.com/guide. And I give a free PDF guide on how to get started in student housing, just how to get started in real estate investing in general, like what are some of my struggles and how I overcome them. And that's again at www.newbierealestateinvesting.com/guide. Newbie is spelled NEWBIE. And then once you get the email from me, you can go ahead and click reply to that email and then ask whatever questions you have.
Sweet. Guys, I hope you took some good notes here, man, because I did in my head as well. It's a fantastic sounding strategy, right? It's a way to really like you retired early and get a lot better income. Ryan, thank you again, man, for coming on the show. There's a lot of good nuggets that you dropped. Folks, I hope you guys enjoyed this show as much as I did and reach out. I think it's something that, more people should learn about. And I think it's a good trend that's happening right now. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. I know as I did. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.